bowl.com tonight, and the links will also be sent to you via email following the webinars. Please feel free to utilize the Q&A function. It's located at the bottom of your screen to ask questions throughout. We do have approximately 15 minutes dedicated to a live Q&A following today's presentation, and we will try to address as many questions as we can at that time. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's keynote speaker. Caroline Marchant came to the Lady Ducks program 15 years ago when her family moved to California, and her 2 young girls began playing for the program. A former collegiate athlete with Clarkson basketball, and with her husband Todd playing for the Ducks, Caroline quickly took on a strong role with the program, helping to develop players, grow the game in Southern California, and develop a plan for what's next for those athletes looking to move on to college opportunities. In addition to coaching in the program, and her son's teams also, Caroline took on a general manager role over the last 12 years and focused her efforts on fundraising, program infrastructure, and college exposure and placement for Lady Ducks players. Her role as college liaison has created a network between Caroline and really every NCAA Division I and III coaching staff and ACHA program in America. That's pretty impressive. By developing the Lady Ducks annual college tour, high school player conferences, and pathway protocols, Caroline has helped place more than 100 student athletes into best fit college hockey opportunities. She's an asset and a tremendous resource to the college process for any hockey player looking to move on from California. With that, I will hand it over to Caroline. Caroline, welcome.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, I will share my screen. Okay, I am going to go over the recruitment process best practices. You need to be active in your college recruiting process. So parents, coaches, and programs can help you, but you as the student athlete are the one that has to want to go through that process. The opportunity is not handed to 99% of female student athletes, so you must go and get it. Do not wait. It's really important. So we talk about reverse recruiting, and that's basically what that is. You have to go and make the connections. You have to do the outreach. During this segment, I will outline a general high school process for your college future. Keep in mind, every student athlete recruiting process is different. For example, we had 2 daughters, both sent the same emails, both went to the same showcases, both played in the same program, both worked just equally as hard. One ended up with a Division I scholarship and applied to the school that offered her the scholarship. And that was it. And our other daughter plays Division III and applied to 12 schools and picked the school that was the best fit for her as a student athlete with what she wanted to do in the future, and gave her the opportunity to play college hockey. So the process is different. And it's best, I strongly recommend, do not try to compare to your teammate or the people around you. Your process is your process. Goals versus dreams. It's really important. We all want to have dreams and we all want to have goals. So every player can play college hockey. That's really important to understand that. I absolutely agree with that statement, as long as it is the player that wants to play college hockey. So not your parents, not your coach, you have to want to play college hockey. And at what level you end up is determined by several things. So how much effort you put into your skill sets and your game and your work ethic, your timing. Okay, so timing is key, right? Obviously with COVID, we talk about timing. Coach Darwitz explained yesterday that, you know, we're faced with seniors now getting an extra year. So incoming freshmen, that makes it really difficult. Skill sets, hockey sense, that sets you apart. Speed, so important. The speed of the game is what determines the level. Every level that you go up, the speed gets faster. So reality will set in as you go through your high school years. Every player has dreams, and those are important to have. There will come a point when each player will realize their limits and hit their ceiling. But if you develop a good work ethic on and off the ice, in sport and in school, you will go further than your ceiling. So remember that. Each season, I'd strongly recommend to reset and reevaluate your goals. All right, moving on. So when I talk about you're going to have a conversation, and that's going to change as you go through the process of your high school years. So from your 14U age group to your 16U age group to your 19U age group. It is never too early to promote yourself. If you have Division I aspirations, you need to be reaching out to all schools you are interested in. This process needs to start your first year 14U season. It's very important to get that process started. Even with the recruiting process and rules changing to allow high school students to be a high school student, Division I opportunities are still being recruited as early as 8th grade and freshman year in high school. Unfortunately, that's still who Division I looks at. So keep that in mind. I always say squeaky wheel gets the grease, and Coach Darwitz definitely touched upon that, constantly. Don't look at it as you're bugging coaches. You want to be reaching out to them on a very consistent basis. So what that means is, and we're going to get into that further with emails and contact, okay? So you must be proactive, do the outreach. You will see the results. NCAA rules. That was discussed yesterday as well, but just to touch upon them again, because I think that's really important for everyone to understand, because I hear a lot of times players will say, well, the coach didn't get back to me. Or I haven't heard from, I've emailed them 20 times and they haven't emailed me back. Well, probably because of your age. So as a student athlete, there cannot be any contact, okay, prior to June 15th following your sophomore year. So that's the rule. That's the NCAA rule. If Division I schools cannot reach out to you until after June 15th following your sophomore year. So it's really important to understand. After that, though, all lines of communication are open. So they can email, they can call you, they can reach out to you, however, go through your coaches, however they can to be able to get in contact. During tournaments, juniors and seniors, Division I can't chat with you until the completion of your tournament. Okay, so that's important to understand. They're going to wait till your very last game, and then sometimes there's a lineup outside the locker room. Division III can talk to you after that last game of the day. So let's say your tournament starts on a Friday, then coaches can actually have a conversation with you after that last game of the day. So usually you play 2 a day in a tournament, so after the second game. Campus visits. A student athlete is not allowed a campus visit till August 1st. So after August 1st of their junior year of high school. Okay, so we used to do a college tour. This year was a little different because of COVID, but with the Lady Ducks, we do this college tour. We take everybody. Before I used to take everybody, freshman, sophomore. Now we restrict it only to juniors and seniors because of this rule. Now, Division III, doesn't matter what year you are in high school, you can still go. So there's times where we've had sophomores and freshmen come along for the college tour to get acclimated to what it's like to see different campuses. It's really important. And we've allowed them to still attend, but they have to understand that they can't be on campus during the Division I tour. So if that school's a Division I NCAA school hockey team, then they cannot attend that group tour. So official visits, it's important that you have your transcript in line and in order to attend a campus visit. An official visit, you need a transcript, okay? So Coach Darwitz touched upon this, and we talked about it briefly, but with COVID and recruitment, it's important to understand that there are a lot of schools that have the ability to, because everybody's been offered an extra year, Division III and Division I. So you need to be, that's a question you definitely need to ask and find out, especially for seniors, because the spots are limited going into college hockey. All right, now we're gonna start in on the 14U age group. Okay, so you may be an 8th grader, possibly even a 7th grader if you're that, young, depending on your birth date. you could be a freshman in high school. So it's important. This is where we intro the process. Okay. So you start to learn how to type an email to coaches. It's really important. You need to start this process at this age group. It's super important. I can't stress enough. Senior year is just a little too late to be starting this whole process. You need to start earlier, just as we mentioned, reverse recruiting. So learn how to type the email. It helps to introduce yourself to the schools that you are contacting. Do a little research. It's important to check the schools out. Find out what it is. I know you're a freshman in high school or an 8th grader and you don't really know. You're 14U. Keep it simple, short and sweet. Most every coach will tell you that. Short and sweet is definitely key. They don't have a lot of time. They get thousands of emails. So just make sure that you're pretty concise. Have your parents help you, have your coaches help you. If your program has a college liaison, use them, reach out to them, have them pre-read your email, give you suggestions, but tell them a little bit about you as a player and as a person. What is unique about you? Maybe you're a high academic student, or you play multiple sports in high school, which is pretty impressive. And then, why are you interested in that school and possibly that hockey program? So those are just some things to put in there. Very important, make sure that in the subject line, you have your name, your position, and your grad year. So the subject of the email has to be your name, your position, and your grad year. Okay. Email best practices. Keep in mind, they will not get back to you, right? We talked about that. You may need to get a general email that says, thank you for inquiring, right? So you'll get a general email back to you that'll just ask you to fill out a recruit form. Fill it out. It's really important. That puts you into their database. And every email you send, they will sync it into your, I call it a folder. Years ago, it used to be a handwritten book, and now everybody's digital. So now every player that emails gets a folder. So definitely do that. Send an intro email to schools, right? We talked about when do you send emails. So I think it's best to send an email at the beginning of a season. Hi, this is who I am. This is who I played for. This is a little bit about me. These are the tournaments that I will be attending. Okay, and I'll have a sample to show you following this slide. And then you're going to email prior to each tournament, which is important. So about 2 weeks prior, usually the schedule comes out. Sometimes it comes out a little closer to the tournament, but as soon as you get your schedule, email your college coaches. The list of schools, keep a list of who you're reaching out to. It's not a blanket email form and send it to the schools you're interested in. Do your research. Ask your coaches, reach out to your program, whoever you're playing for. Those people will be there to help you. They've got lots of experience and knowledge of sending kids to college and helping them navigate which programs are best. Okay. Who do you email? So this is important because Division I, okay, if you're 14U, you're emailing Division I schools. That's what I recommend at this age group because Division III is not recruiting this age group. So Division I is the only group recruiting. So it's important to email the head coach and the assistant coaches. Why? Assistant coaches are usually the ones that are out there at the showcases and tournaments. Sometimes head coaches go for D1, but mainly it's going to be the assistant coaches that are out there watching. So make sure you're emailing both. When you're emailing Division III schools, then you're looking to be emailing the head coach. Their program budgets and their recruit budgets are a lot less. So it's really important to email the head coach. Then if they have assistants, some programs do have assistants that will be at tournaments, they'll let them know. So why do I say 2 weeks prior or as early as you get the schedule? The coaches will sit down and have a staff meeting and they will talk about each player that they're looking at or that emailed them. Obviously, if you email them the night before a tournament, that staff meeting's already happened. So it's important to understand, email early your schedule as soon as you get it so that they can at least have you on a list And at least you've done everything you can to make sure they know where you're going to be. But if you email the night before or the morning of a tournament, it's too late. So just keep that in mind. Now we talk about standardized testing. 14U is really early. You're going to be looking at, freshman year in high school, you're going to be looking at taking the PSAT at some point early sophomore year. Every school's different. Use the school schedule and make sure you get those tests taken. It's really important to have a plan for your high school years. And so kind of map out, again, I go back to, if you're a high academic kid, you're going to be looking at, a different set of schools, and those deadlines are different. And so you want to make sure you're on par taking your standardized testing. So keep that in mind, especially if you're looking at NSCAC programs. After D1 or NSCAC programs, they really are going to lean on those standardized testing to be able to filter through their athletes. Okay, so that's 14U. These are some sample emails. Like I had mentioned, intro to the season, that's going to be a little bit longer. You're going to tell them where you're going to be going, so they can kind of know, okay, this kid's going to be in Boston, or they're going to be in Minnesota, or they're going to be in Detroit. They're going to play in these different showcases. When you're in season, and the email that you send prior to a tournament should be very short and sweet. Maybe you watch the team play. So maybe you're like, hey, coach, I saw you guys play. Sorry about the loss. Or, hey, congratulations on the win. Definitely show them that you're interested in that school, and then give them your schedule of the upcoming tournament. Always add in your contacts for your coaches or your program liaison, or whoever it is that you're working with through your program. It's super important, so that the coach, if you're too young, they may reach out to your coaches, or your program head, or college liaison, just to be able to get some more information on you as a player, and especially as a person. Now, when you get into the 16U age group, right, we're continuing through the process. This age group is a mix usually of sophomores and juniors. Keep as many doors open as you can until they close. Never ignore a coach. Okay, so that's really important. If a coach sends an email back to you when you're a junior, then make sure you're getting back to them. It's vital. It's very important that you take the time and answer your emails, check your emails. Highly recommend that you email an intro again prior to the season starting, right? This is who I play for. This is my tournament schedule for the season. It's important to keep them up to date on what you're doing, especially if you're a player that has now moved programs. That's really important. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I get a call and go, do you know where this kid went? And unfortunately, if they're not emailing the coach, I have no idea where the kid went, so that's tough. Questions to ask. Okay, so do you have legitimate Division I interest, right? At 16U, that door slowly is going to close. So, and that's okay. So is there interest, or are you interested? So that's a big question to ask. So if you have interest, then that's one path. If you're interested but don't have any interest, then that's a different path. So these are different things that we deal with. And then we go through, how do you change your outreach? What is the next step? Okay. Sophomores, doors will stay open right through for Division I. That's really important to understand. But if you're a junior in high school now at 16U, Division I opportunities are closing and D3 doors are opening, right? So now Division III schools will start to look at juniors, especially halfway through junior year, and especially at the NSCAC level. Okay, so they're going to start looking for the high academic kid and the kid that can play at the NSCAC level. The level is a little bit higher, I would say, than your average Division III. You have your higher end Division III programs, then you have your middle of the road, and then obviously your lower end Division III programs. So get on the phone, really important, beef up the contact, right? So get on the phone, have your coach reach out to coaches, set up a phone call. Those are important to do. Obviously, junior, you guys can call coaches directly. Sophomore, you would have to have something set up. So that's important to understand. But take your tests. So now we get back to taking your tests, which is important. A lot of times I'll hear from a junior and they haven't taken any of their tests at all. So really understand, if you're high academic, make sure you're taking your tests your junior year for sure. So whether it's in the fall of your junior year, if you've already had the AP and the knowledge, if you've learned the material, then get that baseline test taken care of. Okay, that's really important. Just a side note, the ACT is a better test to take for most females, especially if you're strong in science. Okay, so just keep that in mind. NCAA clearinghouse. I know that was brought up yesterday. I don't strongly recommend just going to do this. I highly recommend waiting until you're requested to do it. It is a fee, and it's not a fee that everybody needs to pay unless they're on that Division I path. Okay. So, so now we'll go to 19U. This is always a fun age group because this is where it gets exciting. Okay. So you're going to narrow your search now. All right. Juniors, they'll continue the same process, continue sending emails, continue having conversations with coaches, perfecting their game, however they want, whatever their goals are, they need to still be striving towards that. And they need to be starting to narrow down their search on what do they want out of their college years. Okay, now when you're a senior at the start of your season, this is important. You have to have a calendar, you got a plan. You have to have an action plan for the season. Calendar the deadlines. Okay, try to do that in August. It's really important. Have 10 plus schools that you're interested in at the prior to the season start, and be realistic at where you are at your hockey level as well as academic level. Be open to schools that reach out to you, but you maybe didn't have them on your list. Give them an honest effort of looking at the school, because that might be the school that's best for you to go to have a college hockey experience as well as an academic experience. I tell athletes all the time, now when we go through college, you still have to move on and get your master's most of the time. It's very, very rare that a kid comes out of college at 22 and steps out into the real world with the job that they want. Everyone has to go get a master's or some sort of continued education. So I strongly recommend looking at all opportunities, because it doesn't necessarily matter where you go for your undergrad as much as how you do in your undergrad. So it's great to go to Harvard, but if you're struggling at that rigor, you're better off going somewhere else and then going to Harvard for law school, or moving on to Harvard for grad school, something like that, because that is where you're going to need to spend your time. It's about the experience. So keep that in mind. Taking your sport to college. It's an incredible opportunity, and it's not just great for you, because when you get to college, you have a lot of free time. It's important to remember that it's also a great builder for your future. When when you're in high school, you're doing your high school resume to go to college. When you're in college, you're doing your college resume to get a job or to go into a grad program. So playing a college sport is really important, because it shows whoever you're applying that you can handle time management, that you're motivated. So there's a lot of great things about taking your sport to college, because I know as a senior, I get it a lot of times they have to make a decision. You can still do it. So I always recommend trying to do it. You need to narrow your search when we say that small school versus big school. Do you want to be in a city? Do you like that city atmosphere? Do you want to be out in the country and where it's just the campus and there's just a little small town? Do you want a rink on campus? Do you care that it's off campus? Do you care that you have to drive to the rink? Natalie Darwitz talked about roster size. It's super important that you look at that, because it'll determine, you gotta, only so many kids dress. So you gotta know, or is there an opportunity that you might not be dressing for every game? So these are things that, whether you're D1 or D3, these are things that you have to consider, or ACHA as well. What areas of study do you want? That's important to touch upon, because, you know, sometimes Division III is best because it's more liberal arts based. Engineering, for instance, you can do it, but sometimes it's a 3-2 program, meaning you're going to go to one school for 3 years and then you're going to have to transfer somewhere else for 2. Where Division I has more opportunity for engineering and science-based majors. So these are things that are important to consider. And then, you know the difference between ACHA and NCAA. ACHA programs are great. They give you an opportunity to go to some of these bigger schools that have more majors and more areas of study that you might want. And there's nothing wrong with that. I always say to athletes, no one asks you what level of college hockey did you play. If your resume says you played college hockey, they're not going to ask you, well, what level was it? You know, they don't care. They just are impressed that you played college hockey. So keep that in mind too. PG opportunities. This is something that I definitely get asked a lot about. And I think there's 3 main reasons to PG. One, you've already got a verbal commitment to a Division I scholarship, but they don't have an opening your grad year, or your entry year. So they've asked you to PG. Fine, as long as it's a commitment. Another reason to PG would be maybe you're not mature enough to go to college and you need an extra year to kind of grow up a little bit, and maybe you haven't never traveled on your own to a tournament. That's probably a good time to, can I handle going off to school? And then the third is really important, your health, right? Our health, physical and mental health is super important. And sometimes, getting through high school is stressful enough, and then having to face college. So sometimes taking that extra year and easing into it, taking a couple college classes and then moving on. Those are the reasons why I think it's important to consider PGing. But for the most part, I do believe that, if the opportunity presents itself and you can carry your sport to college, then you should go for it and do it. It's a great experience. Thank you very much. And I hope this was beneficial for you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Caroline. That was a lot of really fantastic information, and I'm sure there are some questions after all of that information. So at this point, we'd like to open the conversation to a live Q&A. If you do have any questions for Caroline, please feel free to utilize the Q&A feature, which is available at the bottom of your screen. And then if there are any questions that we're not able to get to, we'll send a follow-up email following this webinar with the answers to those questions. So it appears that we do have a few questions already, Caroline. The first one being, do you send an email at each year of each season, or do you only send emails to coaches when you move up, for example, from 14U to 16U?
I recommend doing an intro email before each season. So if you're 14U twice, you would send it in each 14U season.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification on that. Another question, do D3 schools offer some type of scholarships for those with high academics?
Yes, actually, that's really a good question, because everybody thinks, oh, D1, I have to get a scholarship. Actually, there's a lot of great scholarships at the Division III level, and they're academic scholarships. So it's really important to understand that, as I mentioned, working hard on ice and off ice as a student and as a player is super important, especially as a student, because it's going to open up more opportunities, especially at the scholarship level.
Fantastic. And then just elaborating on that a little bit more, we do have a presentation scheduled for later this afternoon. It's at 3 p.m. And on that, we're going to go into further detail regarding financial aid and scholarships, grants, everything related to that topic. So if you do have further questions, I would highly recommend tuning into that webinar. We'll also hear from an admissions counselor as well to talk more about the application process and what goes into that. All right, it appears we have another question. Which schools have collaborations with California students on offering reduced tuition costs after college hockey for girls? That's a great question, Caroline. Do you happen to know the answer to that? Otherwise, we'd be happy to bring it up during that financial aid webinar.
I'm not exactly sure what they're completely asking, but I mean, every school has the ability to offer some sort of discount in that sense, depending on what your need is, I guess.
Okay, perfect. I think maybe reciprocity was the intent of the question, but we can definitely touch on that further this afternoon. All right. Are there any additional questions at this time for Caroline? All right. Okay. Another question we have that just came through. Do you know if California is planning to offer girls college hockey?
Well, we have a few ACHA programs that are in the works, and there's a couple different on the men's side. So as that builds, I think you're going to see more on the girls' side for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. Another question we received, when will colleges make official offers? One of his players is considering 2 colleges and is hoping for an official offer.
Okay, so official offer, it really depends on the situation and the age of the player. So as the NCAA rule now stands, you cannot talk to a player until after their sophomore year. So I think you'll see a lot of action after June 15th of their sophomore year. It's hard to answer that question without knowing the age and the level of the player.
Definitely a case-by-case situation.
Yeah.
Another question, is it appropriate to include stats in emails?
I don't recommend it. I think as the coaches, obviously this year with COVID, video is really, really important because they can't be out there recruiting since the dead period now is extended until April 15th. So it's pretty self-explanatory. If you attach some video of some of your clips, they'll know right away whether the player has what they're looking for. And every school is looking for something different. So it's really important to, send the video, whether you break it into your shifts or you just send a period, whatever you're capable of doing, add that to your email. Like Coach Darwitz actually mentioned that as well yesterday.
Perfect, thank you. Another question, how important is it to create a social media presence for your player starting at 14U with highlights of their hockey career, like on Instagram? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think social media is fun. Coaches actually will look at the player's social media if it's a player that they're interested in and they're really just kind of looking to find out what kind of person they are. Highlights are great, but highlights, I mean, anyone can do a highlight reel, so keep that in mind. Social media, like I said, they use it to really trying to see if there's anything there that they're not comfortable with.
Awesome. Thank you for touching on that. And I know yesterday Coach Darwitz did mention too that for recruitment nowadays too, a lot of coaches are using social media and they DM. I mean, the means of communication I think has certainly changed throughout the years, but social media is becoming more and more relevant in our lives, and coaches are definitely looking at that too. All right. Are there any additional questions at this point? It appears that all of our questions have been answered. Awesome. Well, that will conclude the Recruitment Best Practices discussion for today. As a reminder, the webinar recording will be posted on ducksgoal.com, and a link will be sent to all of you this evening. Our next webinar highlighting admissions and financial aid, as I mentioned, will take place this afternoon at 3 p.m. So we hope you consider joining us for that. And again, thank you so much to our speaker, Caroline Marchant. You provided such wonderful insight on the best practices when it comes to college recruitment. And then thank you so much for all of our participants for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.